So if you don't know, DNow Weekend stands for Discipleship Now. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that's different than maybe a normal retreat or normal camp, what it's designed for, what's the purpose behind DNow Weekends, where you can get curriculum, the best curriculum in my opinion. This is something I've done with my own youth group for probably 6 years now. At this church, and I've done a few when I was in Texas. And so it's something I've done on like the local church level. So basically a lot of what you're going to hear today is basically how you could put on one of these with your church. But then at the very end, we'll kind of talk about some of the differences for our winter retreat, because we have to change a few of the things, okay? Specifically, like we don't do a mission project, although that would be cool. We figured out a way to help New Life Ranch and just say, we got kids here, like in the afternoon, let's do some type of mission project. They would let us. So, like Scott said downstairs, what does it mean to disciple someone? I'm just going to throw it out there. What does that always look like for you guys? I'm a youth pastor, I talk to the crowd. So what does discipleship look like in maybe your youth group, or how you think about it?
Wherever people are at, just helping them get to where, like, whatever their next step is.
Okay.
And whether they're lost or a brand new Christian, or if they've been a Christian for a long time, it's just helping them get to wherever they need to go next.
Right.
This past Wednesday, we were looking at Habakkuk in the Old Testament, and Ange came home and said, if nothing else, if the kids remember the name of the book that we looked at tonight.
Right.
And so discipleship is even like just baby steps.
Baby. Yeah, take it down. Like, this is where my kid's at. This is where I need them.
Yeah.
And that's different for every kid.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to look at this first verse, maybe. Maybe I don't have it. Nope, that's playing a video. Okay. My slides might be out of order. That's okay. Acts 2:42 through 47. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property, possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in the homes, ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all people. And the Lord added to their number daily those being saved. So what I tell my youth sponsors when we look at this verse, what I want for them to be doing when they are discipling teens is basically living this out. You're doing life together. That's what these verses are talking about. It's not just coming and sitting in church on a Wednesday night. It's not sitting in Sunday school room on Sunday morning. It's you taking a group of students and doing life with them. You're going to meet with them outside of church services. That means you're going to the ball games, you're going to choir concerts. You're taking them out to lunch if the parents allow that. You are trying to do life with them, and you are getting beyond this, hey, how you doing? How's your week going? Superficial conversations, and building a relationship where you're like, hey, like, how's it going? How's your devotion life going? Have you been consistent with that this week? Are you witnessing to friends? What are their names? What conversations have you had with them? How can I be praying for those things in this person? And we're getting more of a deeper level with that group of students, as opposed to just like showing up here, okay? So they did life together, they ate together, they studied scripture together, they prayed for each other, took care of each other's needs. They talked to each other on a daily basis. That's what we see happening, okay? So how many of you or your youth sponsors have this type of relationship with a group of students? Like, think about that. Do you have that type of relationship? Maybe not with your entire youth group. Do you have that type of relationship with 4 to 7 students? Do you have youth sponsors that have that type of relationship with your students? Okay. To be an effective youth pastor or youth sponsor, you need to be developing this type of relationship to a small group. If you have an adult who attends youth meetings, stands in the back of the room, doesn't get engaged, basically they're just looking for kids to mess up or screw up, and then they get on to them. You have a bouncer. You don't have a youth sponsor. I don't need bouncers in my youth ministry. You do. Yeah, some of you might need that. I'm a pretty big guy and I look scary, so I don't need that. The kids fear me enough. But that's what I tell my youth sponsors. Like, yeah, I know discipline sometimes has to happen, but you let me be that guy. You let me, as the leader, be the guy that gets onto the kids. I need you to be engaged. I need you to be playing the games, not sitting in the back of the room during worship. Spread yourself out among the students. Find these 2 or 3 kids that you connect with. Develop a relationship with them. Start asking them harder type questions. Okay? That's what it means to be like an effective youth sponsor. Okay? Someone who comes alongside them, does life with them. Statistically now, most of the stuff I've seen the last couple of weeks when I really looked at this, a youth sponsor can effectively disciple 3 to 4 students. That's kind of what they say now, because of how busy students are, how busy their lives are, how busy our own lives are. You can effectively disciple 3 to 4 students. I might even go like 4 to 7 maybe. 20 years ago when I started it, the number was 7 to 10. Kids weren't as busy. I could maybe reach 7 to 10 students by myself. And I would say if you're a full-time youth pastor who's really on his game, you might be able to hit 7 to 10 now, but only because it's my full-time job. Like, I'm paid to do some of this stuff. If you have a job somewhere else, though, like, you have less time to do this. Okay, that is why when you go to any type of event, you go to a camp or NYC, they're going to say like 1 adult to every 8 students. That's why. That's where that number came from, because they know you can only effectively watch and disciple that number of students. Okay, it's even less than that now. So I'm going to unofficially do a test because this has been my experience. I just want to see if it's your experience. I want you to think about your own youth ministries, and I want you to think about how many youth sponsors you have that are effective youth sponsors. Okay. So once again, not the bouncers, not the helicopter parents, not the people that are just there to be with their kid. How many effective youth sponsors do you have? People who are trying to do this in their ministry. And I want you to take that number and multiply it by 4. And then if you're a full-time youth pastor, I want you to add 7 to that. I'm going to guess that's the size of your youth group. It's been my experience for 20 years. I can take that number of youth sponsors that are effective and myself and add those numbers together, and that's roughly going to be the number of students I have attending youth group. And that's because youth are only going to stay if you're effectively discipling them. If you're not, they're going to find something else to go do. They're going to fall through the cracks. Okay. A couple verses that go along with that. Acts 2:42 or 2:47 says, the Lord added, this is the very end of the verse I read earlier, the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Matthew 16:18, I tell you, Peter, that on this rock I will build my church. The gates of Hades will not overcome it. I know I'm kind of taking that out of context, but Jesus says, I will be the one to build my church. In the end of Acts, the Lord's the one that added to their number daily. It is not your job to grow your youth ministry. I don't believe it's my job to grow the number of people in my youth group. God is going to send me the number of people. Okay? My job is to be Matthew 28. He read this downstairs. Jesus said to them, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples, all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and Son and Holy Spirit. My job in all this is to disciple. I build my youth group around discipling. I bring my youth sponsors in. We have meetings once a year that says, this is your job as a youth sponsor. You are to disciple 3 to 4 students. That is what I want you doing. Okay? God will build our youth group. He will send students to us. We have to be effectively ready to disciple them. And the more people, more sponsors you can have that are effectively discipling students, I guarantee the bigger your youth group will be. I've seen that over and over. Okay? Yeah, just the same. Your youth ministry is never going to grow beyond the number of students you are effectively discipling. Okay? And so that's planning ahead. Like if I want to be running a bigger youth group, bigger numbers, I need to get more sponsors involved and tell them, like, the more you are trained to do this and the more you are trying to disciple, like when those students are inviting friends to church, like they're going to join that like small group of yours. And then as it grows to a certain point, you'll kind of have to split it and give some of those kids to another youth sponsor. Okay? So that's kind of how we do that. So what does all of this have to do with DNow Weekends? If you do not have that type of thing set up in your youth group, DNow Weekends are a great way to start it. It's a great catalyst to building small groups. Okay? If you already have small groups in your church and that's going well, for me, like it's something we do. It kind of goes well because we've done DNow Weekends for like 6 years now. Basically, it's just a way to like remind the students what's going on. I try to put them in roughly the same groups, and then like this is going to be your group for like the next year, right? And some of that changes as kids graduate out or whatever. Okay, but it's just a great way to set up your sponsors with a group of students and say like, these are the kids I want you to focus on, like for the next year. Try to do that. Okay. DNow Weekends are specifically designed for the spiritual growth and connection to happen within the small group sessions. Okay. So a typical camp that you go to, it's basically built around the youth speaker, right, and the youth service. So yeah, we do a lot of fun and games. What we want to happen, we take our kids to go. They hear this great speaker, and we try to create this environment of like, emotion and stuff with music and all of that type of thing, so that there's like this response to what God is calling them to do. Okay. DNow Weekend, I want that same type of response, but it is not designed to happen in the service. It is designed to happen in the small group time. Okay, and I know that's really weird for a lot of students. They will eventually get used to that, but that's what it's designed to happen. So I just said, kind of think about it. When you go to a camp, so maybe this is the difference. This is kind of how I've experienced it. So a kid goes to an altar at a camp, and they have this great experience with God. They make some commitments. Where are they 3-4 weeks later? Who is still talking to them about that commitment? Who is still challenging them or saying to them, like, I know you made this commitment to God. Like, how's it going? Are you able to do it? Who's holding you accountable? Those types of things, okay? It doesn't typically happen. I mean, we kind of, especially I know myself as a youth pastor, like we move on to the next event. Camp's over. What's the next thing on my list? Like I'm planning this next event. And so sometimes a lot of that stuff falls through the crack, or the students might come down and pray with them while they're at camp. But like after the event, like are they talking to each other about it? Are they holding each other accountable within that group? So it doesn't typically happen. Where a DNow Weekend, when that life change is happening within a small group, and they're openly sharing, they're doing Bible study together, they're with that adult, and like so they're sharing like this experience, and God is speaking to them during that time, and then we go home and I still have that same small group, and they're doing devotions on a daily basis together as a small group, and that youth sponsor is contacting them 2 or 3 times a week and just saying, hey, how's it going? There's much greater chance that that person follows through and stays committed to whatever's happened than at a camp. I'm not saying camp is bad. It has its purpose, but like this is designed to be different. It's designed to have that life-changing happen in a small group, not in the service. Okay? So the curriculum is not designed for the large group service. The large group services introduce this main idea, and then the kids break off into small groups, and then they discuss that main idea in deeper format. Okay, that's what it's designed to do, to really dig into the idea that was presented in the large group session. This takes a lot of getting used to for your adults and students. So I don't know if you guys remember the very first NYI meeting we had after winter retreat. The major complaint I got was the services were different. We didn't like the services, like the band just wasn't like a normal band, and there wasn't this like whatever, and like the speakers got up and they started speaking, and then it's like and it was just like the service was cut off, and they just sent us through these small groups, and we like hated it. And I'm like, but I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, that's the point. It's designed to be that way. It is different, right? It is going to take some time to get used to. We do not want winter retreat, or you do not want your DNow weekend to just be seen as a mini camp. It is an event in itself. It is completely different. And so the more you kind of talk about that with your students, especially because we are going to do this again for winter retreat. So like when you're advertising winter retreat, like you need to be telling your students, this is not a mini camp. This is not like we are trying to create something that is completely different than camp. Camp is a great experience. We want DNow to be a great experience for you, but you need to realize they are going to be vastly different. And we're trying to do that for a reason, okay? Your adults need to understand this too, that it's not just a camp. They are not just there to babysit 8 kids and to make sure they go to lights out on time or whatever. Like your adults that are going, they need to understand they are basically the star of the weekend. They're the speaker. They need to understand they're the ones that are supposed to be doing the life change. Like I'm the speaker. You're going to have a mediocre speaker, okay? And that's fine, right? Because it's not about the speaker. It's not about the large group sessions. That just introduces an idea, and then you are going to take the material and you are going to study it with 3 or 4 students, and you as a youth sponsor, you need to know the material. That's what you need to be telling I will get material out to you guys. I'll show you later how we're going to do some things a little different. I mean, it was a little bit of a disaster last year because some people we didn't fully understand how it worked, and they didn't get material out to people. And I would say to those students, the reason why you felt like this wasn't a great, successful event is because your youth sponsor that you were doing small groups with was not prepared. And so it made it an event that really wasn't anything for you. Like you as youth pastors and like kind of the ones in charge of your youth ministries, you need to be telling your youth sponsors, I need you to read this material. I need you to study it. I need you to know where we are going. I need you to know where these kids are supposed to be going, how you're supposed to be directing them. Like that all has to be done before we go to winter retreat. I need you to do that. Because if they do it, if they will commit to that, winter retreat will be an amazing event for you. It will be incredible life change, okay? I've gone from, maybe the first year I did it, small group sessions were lasting 45 minutes or so. At the last DNow I had, which was right before last year's winter retreat, I had groups that were literally meeting in their small group time 2.5 hours. Because the kids get it. They've done it enough. They know that this is a small group time. They know they're opening up with each other. They know they're holding each other accountable for the next year. They've built these relationships with each other. They have that relationship with that adult that I've put them with because they're doing this all year long. And so, yeah, there's great discussion that happens, and they spend a long time in their small group time because they know that's what to expect, okay? So I know that's sometimes hard for us because you're like, I can barely get an adult to even come. But, if you can tell them, truly this is going to be life-changing for all of you. To be able to see students and have students openly share some of the things they share in these small group times and they make the commitments and you're when they see that and they're no longer just the bouncer in the back of the room and they see how they can care for these students, it kind of opens your sponsor's eyes to the point of doing it, right? So what does it look like? What does the curriculum look like? How does it come? What's it designed for? I'll say, first off, it's truly designed to have like 1 adult to like 4 students ratio. That's kind of how it's designed. If you just cannot get another sponsor to come and you have a group of like 7, 8, 9 kids, like it's fine. But the smaller the group you can make it, the better it is for those kids and for the adults leading it. So it's designed 1 adult, 4 students of the same gender. You'll see, because they do like at-home stuff. Like if you're putting this together, you won't be going to a retreat center. You typically set it up where they're going to someone's house. It's either that youth sponsor's house or maybe a parent of some kid in the youth group, and they've opened their house to these kids staying for the weekend. So you need to split it by genders. I typically do 2 senior high students and 2 junior high students in a group together. That creates, there's still some accountability because they're both senior high or both junior high, but then it lets my senior high students mentor my junior high students. And my junior high students love it, and they're like, yeah, like I feel like I'm part of the group because like these senior high students, and like I'm the man because like he's my best friend now, type of thing, right? And then they become senior high students, and you're like, I need you to be like a junior high mentor, and they're like, what? I don't want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but you remember how like you felt when that kid did it for you? And they're like, oh yeah, like then the kids kind of get it, right? So that's how I set it up. Typical schedule. Everyone arrives at the location. You have a hangout time. There's the Friday night main group session. You depart for your host home after the main service time. At the house, once they're at the house, they get like house rules. They do the small group session 1 either that night or in the morning for breakfast. You can kind of, depending on how late you start your event or when they get back to houses. And like if you have parents are like, oh, you don't want the kids staying up to like 2 a.m. to do stuff, you might have to like move it to the morning breakfast time. But sometime before you leave the house, you do the small group session. They will have devotional stuff. So like with part of their books, these are all the different books I have. In the back of the book they get for the weekend, there's like 4 days of devotions in that, and then they get a 30-day devotional for after the event. Lights out. Next morning, you have breakfast at the host home, and then either after the small group session or after kind of hanging out, you go back to the church early or late morning time, right before lunch. So enough time that you can have your large group session and your second small group session before lunch, and then you have lunch. They're designed then for the afternoon of like Saturday afternoon to do some type of service project as a group. You come back after the service project for dinner, and then you have your large group session. After that, they go back to their host homes. And then Sunday morning, you would come back and do your large group session 4. And then what I typically do, I do that during my Sunday school hour, my large group session. We attend church, and then they go and have lunch together in their small groups for the last small group session. They do lunch together, either go get it and bring it back, or they just go somewhere where it's quiet, and then the kids leave. So they don't leave the DNow Weekend until like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon sometimes on that Sunday. Okay. So I'm going to show a video real quick. You will see that kind of laid out through this video, that type of process. Maybe. Oh, I don't have my sound on. Great. I'll start that over. Or you can just see it.
My hope for you this weekend is that you will learn the tools to know God.
So the reason I showed that video is really just to kind of point out, you can see like, that's like a minute-long video, but like there's maybe 10 seconds dedicated to like the service time in the video, because it's not built on the service. The majority of the weekend is that group of students hanging out together, spending time together, getting to know each other, studying the Bible together, and then holding each other accountable afterwards, right? That's what it's built for, okay? We'll go through a couple of different types where you kind of get your curriculum, and then we can open it up to questions and stuff. There's probably 3 different places you can get curriculum from. I only like 2 of them. There's not a whole lot of difference between them. The first place would be Leader Treks. They're $49 a study. And the $49 gets you access to this, okay? So you buy a study. It comes with the large group lessons. There's 4 sessions that come with that. It gives you the PowerPoint slides, gives you videos, media, motion backgrounds to play during the song, videos to show before service and like during the first service and during the last service. Like, this is what you're going to learn this weekend. And then the last service, like, you know, how to go this weekend type of thing. And like, these are the things you should have learned. You know, how are you applying those to your life? So they have, comes with all the videos, comes with graphics, like that match everything, like the shirts and the books and everything, and like all of that stuff matches, all the video stuff matches, background videos, parent newsletters, stuff like that. How do you get host homes? How do you, you know, if you are doing this yourselves, you know, even all the way down to like the forms you have the kids sign out, like all of it's editable, but like they send you all of that and get you access to that. The small group lessons, they give you all the material for that as well. Stuff you can either copy or give to your teachers, or do an online version. This particular group, which we'll look at in a second, if you go through Leader Treks, like they actually have like an online version, and basically when you get your email from any adult sponsor that you have, and then it just gives them access. They can get online, they can pull it up on their phone, tablets, whatever. They can pull up all the small group lessons beforehand and even during the event. Like, so those are some of the things we did not utilize last time. Like, you could just do it all online. The administrator stuff, training. So there's like every lesson, small group lesson, they have like videos that each teacher can watch over each lesson. You know, it gives you Bible background, like these are the verses, this is the context of these verses, this is what we want you pulling out of your students, this is kind of the direction we want you leading this group. So there's like training videos, like all of that is like part of this $49, okay? So that's, I think this is the video. He'll talk
We
about it.
want your Disciple Now event to be great, and so do we. But we also want it to be easy. DNow Studies features a unique teacher management system designed to save you time and make your DNow stress-free. Forget the days of printing and mailing. With the teacher management system, you can easily share lessons with your teachers for small groups. Just enter email addresses of your teachers and decide which materials you want them to access. Your teachers will get an email with their own login info that lets them view each of the lessons and teacher prep videos. They can print these out or just use their mobile device. You can see who's logged in and spent time preparing. The teacher management system also lets you communicate with your teachers and volunteers. Send reminder emails, request t-shirt sizes, or share helpful information about students in their small groups. With the teacher management system, you're on your way to a stress-free Disciple Now event. It's free with every DNow study purchase. At $49 a study, you're looking at the best value for DNow.
Okay, gives you access to all that, $49, that's very cheap. You'll see one of the groups, it's like 3 times that, just for the study. So it's pretty easy. I've used this with a couple of my studies. It does make it very easy, and like you said, you totally get to see which of your volunteers have logged in. Like, I have access to that. I see anytime you log in and what you've looked at, so I know if you've prepared or not. As the leader, I know if my youth sponsors are doing what I've asked them to do. So I can send them reminders and be like, hey, like, this is next week and you haven't looked at any material. Like, I need you to do this type of thing, okay? So when you log in, this is kind of what you see. You'll see at the top, you have like an overview. You can click on large group to get all the large group stuff, small groups, whatever. They can download it either in PDF or Word formats, where they have like any of those things they look at. If they hit the background and hit view on that, that's where they get like the leader prep videos, things like that. Or, you know, they can just play with the website most of the time. So that's the type of media you get. You get promo videos, things that actually promo. I usually play those, you know, at least 6 weeks out. I start playing the promo videos. I even played them for Winter Retreat. It totally goes along with the theme, so the kids know what the theme is before they ever show up. They may have even read some of the Bible verses before they showed up to the event. You get large group session videos to play in each service, the motion loops to go in like the background for all your music, PowerPoints to go with every message, and like I said, all of that type of stuff is editable. That's all in the media's format. Small group stuff, so that's typically they'd have the 4 small group lessons that they can read. I think somewhere it will show. Yeah, so like there, so that's in the background, you can see the background, but when they click on that, you see at the top it says like the student book answers, session 1. So basically what it's gonna do, their book is gonna be a little bit different than what you have. Like you're gonna have like a leader copy, they have the book. But if you want to know exactly what the students are looking at, what it looks like for them, you can click on that student book answers and you will see exactly what the students are looking at. Okay, so you can say like, go to this section of the page to find what I'm talking about, and you will know like in your head what that looks like. So this is what we do with the packs. So on top of the $49, they get you access to all that, but then to buy the material, which is like this stuff right here, so your books and your t-shirts that go along with it, and you guys can look through any of that later if you want. I typically do the super pack, which is the book for the weekend, 1 month devotional following it, and the t-shirt. The reason I do that, I have all of my groups come back in their small groups and say, for the next month, I want you to work through this devotional together in your small group. It's a daily devotional, and it just kind of keeps that process going so it becomes a habit that this group meets together. So that's why I buy that, because it's like $3 more to get the 1 month devotional just to do that, okay? So leader checks, it's like $17.95 for those 3 things. Another site, it's a little bit cheaper, but they charge you more for the $49 pack, if that makes sense. Which you'll see. So the other place you can go, so that's leader checks. The other place is Youth Ministry 360 or YM360. If you just type in YM360 and go that, you can see at the top there's the DNow retreats in that list. They are different. What they offer is different than leader treks. They offer like different weekend themes. Some of them are the same, most of them are different. They charge $69, so it's $30 more to buy the material, but it's cheaper, you'll see in a second, it's cheaper to buy the t-shirts and stuff like that. So it's like $3 a person cheaper to buy the material for the students. The other thing that YM360 does not have is they do not have that online version where like your teachers can go online and see stuff. So if you buy it through YM360, you will get all that same material, but then you are going to have to like physically copy that or send it or create like a, you know, a Google file or something that they can get online. Like you're gonna have to create all that type of stuff yourself. And all the prep videos, like you can see, like you could go online right now and you can see the opening session video, the closing session video, you'll see the motion loops. Like you can view all of that. It's gonna have the watermark on it until you actually purchase it. But like this is where they would have to go to see the the prep videos. So like all of it's online, but you're gonna have to tell them to go to this site to find that study. It's not just gonna be like a login that they get emailed to them. So it's a little more work for you to do it, but you know, $60 for the material and all of the videos and everything, it's worth it. And then like you can see their pricing is a little bit cheaper for the material per student. So if you're running like, you know, 300 students, this might be in the long run cheaper for you to purchase because, you know, $3 times 300 students. But I'm fine with either one of them. I've used material from both of these. It's good material. I will tell you it's Baptist-based, so there are some things you might sometimes have to, like, just skip that question, or, you know, or just talk to your kids about it and be like, you know, this is what they say. This is kind of how we view it from the Wesleyan theology. You know, that's typically what I do, because I want my kids to know, like, these are the differences. If you go to a Baptist church, they're going to teach you this. We're going to teach you this. These are some of the differences. So I just use that as a training opportunity. Most of the large group sessions, I haven't really ever had to change a whole lot as far as what they talk about, because once again, it's very general based in the large group sessions. It's in the small group stuff that you might find some things that are a little different. This is the last group, just to be fair, because I'm not sponsored by any of these groups to tell you to buy their material. I got to see what this is even called. I don't know, because I've never bought for them. It's DiscipleNowCurriculum.com. If you go to DiscipleNowCurriculum.com, the reason I don't do it is because why would I pay $150 for the exact same thing that I can buy for $49? They charge me $100 extra just for the material. There's no online version. They basically just send me that stuff, and then they don't even have the t-shirts available to buy. They just send me the artwork, and then I've got to find someone to make the t-shirts for me. And they charge a huge amount. And then if you want the 30-day devotional, they charge an extra $50 for the devotional instead of
One devotional.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, like, it's probably the ability to copy it and make it. Like, they send you they just send you the file, but like you've got to make all this stuff. So I have never used them, and they're super expensive. But there you go. But there are studies, some other studies that will say look pretty cool, but I haven't yet found it worth to pay that extra amount of money and the extra amount of work for a really cool lesson. And for some reason, their lessons come with 5 lessons. I've never done a DNow where I have had 5 sessions. That's almost like designed for camp, maybe, as opposed to a DNow weekend. So some of the differences basically within Winter Retreat. So that's kind of how you would design it if you were doing your own. You would want to create host homes. Typically, I ask either parents of students or a leader if they're willing to open their home for 3 to 4 students and an adult to come and stay. Typically, I will tell the host home, like, if it's an adult that doesn't live in that house, like if it's just a parent, like provide a bed for the sponsor to sleep in. The kids can sleep on the floor, right? They bring their sleeping bags, they sleep on couches, sleep on floors, the kids are fine. They've done it every year. I've never had anyone complain about doing that. So that's one of the differences between like Winter Retreat, and if you do this on your own, you have to provide the host homes. The other difference is the service project. And we could, like I said, talk with New Life and see if they'd be willing to create or let us do like a 2 or 3 hour type of service project in the middle of the afternoon on Saturday afternoon. One of the things I did not like about last year was the whole last session, kind of like go home and do the small group on Wednesday night type of thing. My problem with that is I only have about like half my kids that even attend my Wednesday night, go to Winter Retreat, and so half of them are going to be completely clueless because it's going to have nothing to do with anything they've talked about. Like only half the kids are going to get it. And I'd rather you go home, and I will probably tell you guys and tell others, like, yes, I know we need to leave the campground before lunch, so we will have the large group session, and then I want you to go home. But like either on the way home or like after you get back to your church, like go out as small groups, go get lunch, come back, do your small group session at the church, and then go home. So like, yes, I get you won't be going home until like 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, but you will get more out of it and your group will get more out of it if you just do the material that day when you come home. So that's a suggestion I will make as far as Winter Retreat scheduling. That's what I have. You guys got questions? I've done lots of these, so if you have, that was just kind of an overview. How do we make it better for Winter Retreat? I will probably this year do the Leader Treks version. just so you guys know. So as soon as you guys sign up, as soon as you register or your adults register, I will be adding their emails to that list and sending that small group material. I mean, you'll even get the large group. It's fine, like, read through the large group material, right? Yeah, you're not teaching, but read through it so you know where I'm going as a speaker, you know where the small group is kind of headed. It's just a good idea, just, you know, have your leaders read everything, and then be prepared. It's a little more work for you guys and for me, I know, in trying to prepare our youth sponsors and getting them to understand, like, this event's built for you. Like, you have to be prepared for it to really work well.
Are you gonna do all the large group sessions?
Yeah, I think that was kind of another kind of thing that just did not flow well last year, having a different speaker at every session.
'Cause if they actually did prepare last year, they probably got to their small group time and they were like prepared to talk about one thing, and they're like.
Right.
the
Right,
large
because
group
some of them
speaker
didn't
talked
even
about
stick,
something.
yeah, they didn't stick to the material, or, yeah, a couple of them didn't stick to the material, and that just made it harder. And I just think it's, you know, I'm not trying to create the camp thing, but just having one speaker who's really studied all 4 lessons and kind of knows where the entire weekend is headed,
Yeah.
it's just gonna flow better. I will not speak every year. I think we're trying to get it to where, like, I might speak this year, but you might speak next year, or you might speak the next year. And we'll, like, we want to create this, but, like, just have a different
Yeah.
youth pastor kind of on our district take one of those weekends. If anyone's willing to speak. It's really not that hard. And,
Casey is.
huh?
Casey.
Casey's willing.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
I got you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions.
Yep.
Both, methodology wise, but also for our district for small group, or for winter retreat.
Right.
One, do you have sponsors that do not participate? Like, they choose, do you allow people to be sponsors that will not participate in DNow because they're not comfortable leading a small group?
It's not because they're not comfortable leading a small group. I've had some not go just simply because they couldn't, you know, I have some that work the weekends.
Well, right, yeah, there's always.
Or there's the reasons why, but I have never had someone say, I'm not doing this because I'm not leading a small group. Because even my.
Because it's an expectation you have already.
I have an expectation of how they're working in my youth group anyway.
Right.
You are not just gonna come and be a spectator in my youth group.
Yeah. I think that's one distinction with winter retreat that needs to be.
Right.
I think we need to have if we really want this to be fleshed out in this scope, which
Right.
I think is right, we need to have clear expectations and probably some kind of, maybe even in-person meeting.
Right, which is fine. Yeah, I'm totally up to, you know,
Level
we
set.
thought about doing like an in-person meeting and it just never happened. Like, you know, a couple weeks before, we need to sit down and say, okay, if you were a youth sponsor or if you are going as an adult to winter retreat, I need you at this meeting so that we can go over all of this and we are all on the same page as to what your expectations are as an adult going to this thing. Because if they do not prepare, it is going to be another disaster. It's like if you just show up and you think, I'm gonna run a 10-minute small group time and then we're gonna go play, like, you've missed the whole point of this weekend. And those that are maybe scared, I will say, like, because I've gotten info, I get the material out to my youth sponsors like a month in advance. And so anyone that's kind of scared about doing a small group, like, when I give them time to read the material, highlight what they want, like, this isn't going to work, but this maybe will, or I need to change this, or because sometimes it comes with, like, do this activity with your small group, and, like, we're not going to be able to do all the activities that they say at winter retreat. That's another thing. Like, you know, if you're in a host home or I'm doing a smaller scale and I've, like, charged this much for kids, but, like, I can't go buy sometimes material for, like, 200 kids or whatever it is for winter retreat. But if I've looked at that beforehand, I know, like, I can't do this way, or this is how we're going to change it and make it work. But that needs to be talked about, yes, beforehand.
Right.
Well, and it'll help being consistent, like camp-wide, we're all doing this at the same time.
Right.
So like some groups aren't, hey, this is what we did.
Right.
Like, that's not what we did, you know.
And I get, like, a lot of, like I said, the first few times I did it, my kids were only spending like 45 minutes in small group time. So when we build the schedule, we will probably build it to where you have like an hour, at least an hour. But I'm also not going to put anything on the tail end that they necessarily have to be at, except maybe that morning time where they have to go to lunch. That might be the only time where we kind of put a close on it, because I've had groups go almost 3 hours. Like, I need to give you in a window to say, like, your small group time is going to last between like an hour to 2.5 hours, right? We want to give you that window. It doesn't mean you have to spend 2.5 hours and just like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to, like, it's like pulling teeth to get the kids to answer anything. Like, don't do that, but.
Cool. The service projects, when you guys do them for yourself, locally, is that with everybody or is that small group based?
So I've done it both ways.
Okay.
I've done one where we as an entire group went and did something, but I've also, one year it was as simple as like, we made cookies for all the shut-ins in our church. And so as a group, we all made the cookies, but then we broke up into our small groups to actually go deliver them. So they went as a small group to, like, you're gonna take this area of town and this group's gonna take this area of town. And that's how we did that.
That's cool. The last question that I had was the teacher management system, I think, was in Leader Treks.
Leader Treks, yeah.
Can we utilize, is that tier based in that you own the system for the district and then it goes to the youth pastors and then to the sponsors? And then the sponsors can, so the youth pastors can see what their sponsors are or are not doing, or is it only one to the many?
I do not know the answer to that because I've never done it on that large of a scale.
Yeah, I think that would be the case.
Like, because I'm the leader, I have access to everything. I see everything. I've never actually had one of my sponsors log in and, like, I need to see what you see because I have access to everything, but I don't know if they do or not.
Right.
But even if they, even if it wasn't set up that way, if I kind of know who the lead is at your church or your area, like, I could totally send you a text or an email to you and just say, hey, like, these people from your
Yeah,
group.
it's either one person watching over everybody or
Right.
7 people have a
Right.
login that they can utilize.
Right. I don't know. I will look and see. I can log in even tomorrow and kind of look back and see if there's a way when that person logs in, if I can set them up as an administrator. Because it might even just be as simple as like, they're an administrator and not just like a leader.
Yeah.
And you would have kind of access to that.
Yeah. Cool.
Any other questions? How are we doing on time?
It's 11:20.
Am I supposed to be done at 11:20?
The lunch is supposed to start at 11:30.
Okay. And it's right across the hall.
Upstairs.
They're supposed to be bringing stuff up here, like, so it's one of 3 locations that they'll serve out of, but one is like right across the hall. So. Anything else?
So financially, like, it's, for Leader Treks specifically, it was like the $45 one or 50 something.
Yeah, it's like $50.
Is
yeah.
that a one-time purchase for all that stuff?
Yep.
Does every student pay that?
Nope, it's one-time fee.
And then it's the student fee for the
The
materials?
$15 to $20 for the material. So I charge, when I do my
Yeah,
own
that's-
DNows, I charge my students $50 for the whole weekend.
Okay. And that
$20 covers the material, $30 covers their food.
Yep.
And I am able to purchase food, like, I've done like, go to Chick-fil-A and get a big Chick-fil-A tray and, a tray of macaroni and chicken nuggets, and I usually can get enough food. I've never overspent my budget on budgeting for $30 a student on food for the weekend.
And you usually do you do like dinner and then a full day of food or whatever? Or like, just walk me through a weekend, like not,
Okay.
not material wise.
Right. So I don't do dinner like Friday night.
Yeah.
Because we usually would start like 6 o'clock ish, so that a lot of times they've had dinner. Now I have snacks available, so like when they're doing like the game time, whatever, there is snacks and stuff that I purchase for the weekend as well. Service is usually 8 o'clock or something like that. Service will usually last roughly an hour, so that they're leaving the church by like 9 o'clock to go to the host homes. So they're there at their host homes by like 9:30. In the host homes, if there's any rules that they want to go over, like if I'm staying at someone else's house, they might have specific rules. And I've told my kids, like, the rules might be completely different next year than they were last year or this year or whatever, because like you're at a different home. So like whatever that person says, like if they tell you do not eat food in the living room, like only eat in the kitchen, like you are to obey like whatever house rules they have set up for you. And I've never had anybody complain about kids not following house rules. But they go back, they kind of hang out. At some point in time, you will do the devotional small group time with them. Like I said, either in the morning for breakfast. The breakfast is at the host homes. And what I have told anyone that does a host home, like save your receipts, turn your receipts into me, and I reimburse them. So I pay for whatever they've got for breakfast out of that $30. And then they have a devotional time at night, like personal devotional time within the book, and then lights out. And then the next morning, usually like 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, we say be back at the church by that time. So we have our small group, our large group session at that time. And then, between 11 and 12 to 1, whatever, they have lunch. And I usually bring something in like Chick-fil-A or pizza or something that they all eat together in a room downstairs at the church. And then we go do the service project. I've done prayer walks at that time as well. If you've never done a prayer walk, just trying to do something different other than service sometimes. Dinners at like 5 o'clock, typically 5 to 6. And then we have service from 6 to 7, 7:30, whatever. And then they go back to the host homes. And that's more, that particular time is a lot more time because they're at the host home starting at like 7 o'clock to like, midnight before you make them go to bed. But that's where a lot of the connection and small group time, and they learn to hang out and they play video games together or they do whatever. So they do that, and at some point they do the small group session. I let that kind of be up to the leader of the home. Like if they're playing video games, let them play video games. But like leave a 2-hour window to do small groups kind of within that time frame. And then Sunday morning, they're here. Our church does donuts every Sunday morning anyway. So we just grab a couple of those boxes and make them for the teens. And so they eat breakfast here. Sometimes I have a little more than just the donuts. Like we go get a few extra things, but they do breakfast here, and then we do the service during our Sunday school hour, 9 to 10. They attend service, and then when service is over, I give each adult, I think it's like $10. I just give them like a $10 bill that they hand their students, and then they take them to wherever they want for lunch, and they have like a $10 bill to buy food on. Most of the time, like the first couple of years, they try to actually go to a restaurant and just stay there, but it was like too loud. So most of them will just go somewhere, pick up food, and then come back to the church and find a spot around here to do their small group time. And then whenever they're done with their small group, they head home. So that's how we've done it.